You know, this is another one of those videos that I hesitated to make. Not because I'm sure what I believe or because I'm worried about people's reactions. I am past that point. I hesitated because I know this conversation tends to get emotional fast. And once it does, nuance usually gets tossed right out the window. But here we are, because there's something that we need to talk about. And it's the way the word respect gets misused and sometimes weaponized. Hey everybody, I'm Rachel. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so somewhere along the line, respect got flattened into this idea that we owe everybody approval, agreement, deference, silence. We don't. What we owe each other at the most basic human level is the respect to exist, to live our lives, to make our own choices, to believe what we believe even when other people disagree. That's it. You are entitled to your life. You are entitled to your beliefs. You are not entitled to have those beliefs respected, especially when they're rooted in fear, hatred, or harm. And that distinction matters more than ever right now. Because when people say, you need to respect me, what they really mean is, don't question me. Don't challenge this. Don't make me uncomfortable. And that is not respect. That is control. Respecting people is not the same thing as respecting ideas, and confusing the two has gotten us into a lot of trouble. I can respect your right to believe something without respecting the belief itself. I can acknowledge your humanity without endorsing your worldview. I can be civil, kind, or even silent without betraying my own conscience. That is not disrespect. That is discernment. And this is where things get complicated, because most of us were taught very early that we need to respect authority. Teachers, parents, police, pastors, bosses, institutions. And to be clear, that lesson isn't wrong. Authority does matter. Structure matters. Rules matter. Without them, society doesn't function. But what we are not taught at an early age, at least not clearly, was when not to respect authority. Most of us weren't taught how to recognize the moment authority crosses the line from guidance into harm. We weren't taught how to separate obedience from integrity. We weren't taught what to do when following the rules starts to feel wrong. And if you grew up in my era, I'm a Gen Xer, you probably remember that tension showing up even in the music. John Mellencamp had that line, authority always wins. And yeah, people are going to point that out. So let me beat you to the punch here. The point of that song was never that authority is right. It was that authority is powerful, that it knows how to corner you, that it knows how to smile while it does. In the authority song, he talks about being put in compromising positions, places where saying no suddenly comes with consequences, where compliance feels easier than resistance, and where authority doesn't look cruel, it looks reasonable, friendly even. That is how most harm actually happens. Not with shouting, not with bad guys, but with pressure, with incentives, with a quiet understanding that things will go much smoother if you just go along. And when Mellencamp says authority always wins, he's not talking about morality. He's talking about leverage, about systems and power. But the part that people miss is that he also says he always comes out grinning. Not because he won, but because he didn't lose himself. Because even when authority wins the power struggle, it doesn't automatically win your conscience. And that is the line that this entire conversation lives on. And that's exactly why discernment matters. Because winning doesn't mean being right, and power does not equal moral authority. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly and bluntly when he said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say, do it anyway so people don't get uncomfortable. He didn't say, go along with it to keep the peace and get along. He didn't say, respect it no matter the cost. He placed the responsibility exactly where it belongs, on the individual. Now, let's talk about authority a little more directly here, because I think this is where people get stuck. Most philosophies, religions, and societal expectations for that matter, Stoicism, Buddhism, and even modern ethics, recognize the importance of authority, structure, and order to reduce chaos. They protect people. They allow societies to function. But none of them argue for blind obedience. Respecting authority means acknowledging its role in providing stability and safety. It does not mean surrendering your moral agency. Authority exists to serve human dignity, not override it. And the reason so many decent, well-meaning people end up complicit in harm is not because they're evil. It's because authority seldom demands cruelty all at once. It happens gradually, incrementally, with language like just this once, or this is policy, or you don't have the full picture, and greater good. Before you know it, silence feels safer than resistance, and compliance feels easier than clarity. That's why Martin Luther King Jr. argued that we don't just have the right to disobey unjust laws, we have a moral responsibility to do it. And he was very clear. Peaceful resistance wasn't about chaos or ego. It was about exposing injustice without becoming unjust ourselves. That is a hard line to walk, but it's an essential one. Stoicism echoes this idea through Seneca, who said, "He who does not prevent what he can prevent commits it." That sentence should make us all a little bit uncomfortable because it tells us that silence isn't neutral. Passivity isn't harmless. Looking away is still a choice. Now, this is where I got to be honest. Seneca himself was slow to denounce Nero. Fear played a role. Survival played a role. He hesitated longer than he should have. But eventually, he did speak. And unfortunately, it cost him his life. So maybe not the ideal motivation, but that doesn't make him perfect. It makes him human. And it carries a message a lot of people need to hear right now. It's simple. Better late than never. Waking up slowly does not disqualify you. Changing your mind doesn't make you weak. Finding your voice later in life doesn't erase your moral worth. What matters is what you do once you know better. Cato the Younger believed virtue mattered more than power, even when it cost him everything. He understood that winning meant nothing if you lost your integrity in the process. And this is where Buddhism quietly reinforces the same idea. Compassion does not mean enabling harm. Non-attachment doesn't mean moral apathy. Right action still matters, even when it's uncomfortable. You can hold compassion for people while refusing to participate in what hurts other people. You can let go of ego without letting go of consequence. Respect does not mean obedience. Respect does not mean agreement. Respect does not mean tolerating abuse or becoming a doormat. You can show respect while still saying no. You can honor an office without honoring a person or condoning unjust commands. You can be calm, civil, even kind, and still refuse to participate in harm. And sometimes, tact matters. There is a quote that's frequently attributed to Winston Churchill. Tact is the ability to tell someone to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to the trip. In other words, you don't have to scream to be firm. And if you need a more modern example, Nick Fury summed it up perfectly in The Avengers, one of my favorite movie series. I recognize the council has made a decision, but given that it's a stupid-ass decision, I have elected to ignore it. Yeah, I know. I don't deliver it nearly as well as Samuel L. Jackson, but you get the point. That's not chaos. That's clarity. We all have choices. We always have choices. Now, this is the part people don't talk about enough. Choice is actually good for us. Agency is stabilizing. Clarity calms the nervous system. Knowing where you stand actually reduces your anxiety, even when the decision is hard. A society where people confuse respect with silence is a society where harm goes unchallenged. And we can do better than that. Not by being louder, not by being cruel, but by being clear. Respect people, question ideas, protect your integrity. That is not disrespect, that's responsibility. If you're still with me, thanks for watching. Take care of you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.